What if Boeing silenced the whistleblowers? Subscribe for a new story every night at 8 p.m. Mountain Time. Let's get into tonight's case. 2 Boeing whistleblowers, 2 sudden deaths, 30 days apart, spring 2024. First, John Barnett, 62, a Boeing quality auditor in Charleston, South Carolina, found dead in his pickup truck on March 9, 2024. A single gunshot wound. Police called it a suicide. Barnett had spent 7 years documenting production defects on the 737 MAX. He was 3 days from a critical deposition. 30 days later, Josh Dean, 45, a former Boeing engineer at Spirit AeroSystems in Wichita, Kansas, died April 30th of a sudden bacterial infection. Family said it was MRSA. Dean had filed a formal whistleblower complaint with the FAA just months earlier. He'd named the same defects Barnett had. 2 men, 2 deaths, both critical witnesses in a case that had already cost 346 lives. What if Boeing silenced the whistleblowers? John Barnett worked at Boeing's North Charleston plant for 7 years, starting in 2017. He inspected the 737 MAX fuselage panels. Over time, he noticed a pattern: debris left inside the fuel tanks, tools, shop rags, foreign object debris, the kind of contamination that brought down TWA Flight 800 in 1996, killing 230 people. Barnett started filing safety reports. He filed more than 100. Boeing stopped assigning him shifts. He was moved to a warehouse. He filed a complaint with OSHA. He retained the law firm Speiser Krause to represent him in a whistleblower retaliation suit against Boeing. In 2021, the Department of Labor ruled in Barnett's favor. Boeing appealed. The case dragged on. By early 2024, Barnett was deposed 11 times. He flew to Charleston for another round of questioning. On March 8, 2024, he was found dead in his truck the next morning. Josh Dean was a quality engineer at Spirit AeroSystems, the Boeing supplier that builds the 737 MAX fuselage. He worked there for 11 years. Like Barnett, he raised safety concerns about the manufacturing process. He alleged that the fuselage panels were improperly drilled, that fasteners were missing, that pressure bulkheads were not properly bonded. Spirit fired him in 2022. Dean filed a whistleblower complaint with the FAA. He also joined a federal class action lawsuit against Spirit and Boeing. In February 2024, the Labor Department issued a finding that Spirit had retaliated against Dean. Spirit rejected the finding. On April 12, 2024, Dean testified in a deposition. 18 days later, on April 30th, he was hospitalized with what his family described as a sudden MRSA infection. He died that same day. He was 45. To understand why these 2 deaths matter, you have to understand the 737 MAX. The MAX was Boeing's response to the Airbus A320neo. It launched in 2011 with a promise: same fuel efficiency as the neo at a fraction of the development cost. Boeing achieved that by strapping larger, more fuel-efficient engines onto the existing 737 airframe. The new engine sat further forward and higher on the wing. That changed the aircraft's center of gravity. To compensate, Boeing added a software system called MCAS, Maneuvering Characteristics Augmentation System. MCAS would automatically push the nose of the aircraft down if it sensed the plane was about to stall. The system relied on a single angle of attack sensor. If that sensor failed, MCAS would still fire. On October 29, 2018, Lion Air Flight 610 crashed into the Java Sea 13 minutes after takeoff. All 189 people on board died. Investigators found the angle of attack sensor had failed. MCAS had forced the nose down. Boeing blamed the pilots. 4 months later, on March 10, 2019, Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302 crashed 6 minutes after takeoff. All 157 people on board died. The same sensor, The same MCAS system, the 737 MAX, was grounded worldwide. It was the deadliest corporate cover-up in aviation history. 346 people. The MAX was ungrounded in late 2020 after Boeing rolled out software fixes and pilot retraining. By January 5, 2024, the planes were back in the air. That night, Alaska Airlines Flight 1282 took off from Portland, Oregon, bound for Ontario, California. About 6 minutes into the flight, a door plug blew out of the side of the fuselage. The plane lost pressure instantly. A boy sitting in the row next to the missing door was pulled toward the opening. His mother grabbed his shirt and held on. The shirt tore. The boy survived. The plane made an emergency landing back in Portland. The National Transportation Safety Board investigation found that 4 bolts that were supposed to hold the door plug in place were missing. They had never been installed at the Boeing factory in Renton, Washington. The FAA grounded the MAX again. It was the worst crisis in Boeing's history. The company's stock dropped more than 20% in 2 weeks. CEO Dave Calhoun admitted the company had a quality problem. Then, 2 men who had been documenting that quality problem turned up dead. In late March 2024, the Department of Justice opened a criminal investigation into Boeing. The Securities and Exchange Commission also opened an investigation. The FAA launched an audit of Boeing's production lines. Senate investigators hauled Dave Calhoun to Washington in June 2024. Senator Richard Blumenthal of Connecticut opened the hearing. He told Calhoun, quote, "Your company has a culture of concealing rather than confronting problems." Calhoun apologized. He said Boeing was committed to a culture of safety. He stepped down as CEO at the end of July 2024. His replacement, Kelly Ortberg, took over in August. By the end of 2024, Boeing had paid more than $1 billion in fines and settlements related to the 737 MAX crashes. The DOJ had not yet brought criminal charges. In 2025, Boeing lost $11.8 billion. In 2026, the company reported a criminal settlement with the Department of Justice that allowed Boeing to avoid prosecution if it complied with a 3-year deferred prosecution agreement. Whistleblower advocates said the deal did not include any new protections for the people who had tried to warn the public. The families of John Barnett and Josh Dean did not accept the official explanations. Barnett's family filed a civil wrongful death lawsuit. They argued that the stress of Boeing's legal pressure had contributed to his death. They pointed out that Barnett was in good spirits the night before he died. He had been making dinner plans with a friend. He had talked about finally taking a vacation. Josh Dean's family said the same. He had been excited about a new job offer. He had told his sister he was feeling good. A toxicology report later confirmed MRSA in Dean's blood. The medical examiner ruled his death from natural causes. A separate investigation by the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division concluded that Barnett had shot himself. Neither investigation addressed the question of whether Boeing's retaliation had contributed to either death. Boeing declined to comment on the lawsuits. In a statement released after both deaths, the company said it was, quote, saddened by the loss of 2 former employees. Subscribe for a new story every night at 8 p.m. Never miss a case. 2 men raised alarms. They had evidence. They had legal standing. They had a track record. They had time. In March and April of 2024, both of them were gone. The 737 MAX was grounded again 3 months after they died. The Department of Justice opened a criminal probe. Congress opened hearings. A CEO resigned. None of that happened because of the whistleblowers. It happened because a door plug fell out of a plane at 16,000 feet in front of a row of terrified passengers on a flight that the 2 dead men had warned Boeing about years before. The official investigations cleared Boeing of direct responsibility for the deaths. The lawsuits continue. The families continue to ask the same question. If the men were right about the planes, What else were they right about? What if Boeing silenced the whistleblowers?